The New York Giants have moved on when it comes to their quarterback and are looking more dangerous than they were previously. We shall see. But after one of the, I don't think surprise packages is fair, but one of the certain rookie performances of the year in Mr. Malik Nabers last year, the Giants are exciting again from fantasy. Who'd have thought that with Saquon Barkley moving on? Ed and I are here to break down the New York Giants from a redraft fantasy football point of view. And we will start off with a player who is one of the greatest quarterbacks to have played in the modern era, but one that is also one of the greatest sources of comedy for us on the show, especially Ed.
Is that a direct quote from himself about being the greatest quarterback? Yeah, I think
he's in the mix of one of the greatest in the modern era. I think is fair.
He is, to be fair to him. I think over the last few years that's taken a bit of a hit, really, hasn't it? And he's become almost a bit of a figure to poke fun at. But undoubtedly, he moves to his third team in 3 years as he looks to kickstart the Giants franchise from their extended slumber. As you've said, let's not forget that in his time at Seattle, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback for 8 consecutive seasons. But it's 5 years since he last hit that heights, and I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the top 10 this year. The Giants have only signed him on a 1-year deal, so he very much feels like a stopgap solution for the Giants. Are they going to tank for a quarterback in a year that's expected to have some really top quarterback options in the draft next year? Are they after that number 1 pick in 2026? I'm sure they're not, but it does appear to be a stopgap. He threw just 4 touchdowns in his last 4 Steelers games with just 5.7 yards per attempt. And he's arguably moved to an even worse offense with only one true playmaker, who you've alluded to already, being Malik Nabers. So I don't think that does much for Russel Wilson's stock. Let's just remember, the Giants fans are about to list a who's who of quarterbacks. Giants fans have to endure the likes of, are you ready for this? Mike Glennon, Jake Fromm, Davis Webb, Drew Lock, Tyrod Taylor, and Tommy DeVito.
Bingo.
Quarterback over the last 4 years. So, I mean, to have Russell Wilson is like having Patrick Mahomes, merged with Peyton Manning to Giants fans. Is Wilson better than the ones I've listed? Yes. Will he be fantasy relevant? No, is the short answer. Potential streamable quarterback is probably being kind, I would suggest.
I think his outcomes are most definitely limited when it comes to this season. But let's not forget, though, that stat up on the screen, 3 top 12 finishes in 11 starts. He can still do it, and that's why he's potentially streamable for me. Throwing in the fact that he has got a fantastic pass catcher on team, that's the problem, is it peters out after that stage. Obviously, there's some options at running back as well that we'll talk about. But yeah, the thing that when I'm looking at the Giants is that Wilson and Winston seem like a quite a good combination, actually. And I don't think we see enough. I know it's very difficult when preparing game scripts, and hardly are we elite coaching minds, but it looks like actually a situation where a combination of both of them for the betterment of the team is probably the better outcome, really, when it comes for the Giants over the course of this year. I can't wait to see James Winston throw the ball with his eyes closed miles downfield for Malik Nabers to go find it from somewhere. But yeah, Russell Wilson is the clear QB1 in this situation. Don't draft him. Keep an eye on how he goes. And even if he has a good couple of games, be prepared to drop him again when the wheels fall off that, or he's got a tricky matchup coming up.
Yeah, he's certainly someone who you shouldn't be drafting. And it's a good point you make about Winston. Like last season, I don't think Wilson is absolutely nailed on to be QB1, and he certainly will be droppable. It's not like they've invested huge amounts in him. So, yeah, keep an eye on him. It is the best advice that you can give, really.
At some point in the season, we are going to see an inspirational talk-off between Winston and Wilson as well. I'm sure there's going to be some really painful videos coming out of that Giants locker room at some point. One player who I think could be described as a bit of a surprise package last year. And is a player I think I'm far more negative towards than most are. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the projected RB1 for the Giants, Tyrone Tracey Jr.
Yeah, running back is a really interesting situation in New York this year. And yeah, we've gone with Tracey first because I think he probably will start the season as RB1. He had a fairly promising rookie season, but I just find it really difficult to predict what happens within this season. Like I say, he probably will be RB1, but can he repeat what he did last season? And his age is an issue. He's already 25, and he did have a problem last year with fumbles, but did well to average 4.4 yards per carry in what was probably one of the worst offenses in the league. He will have competition this year, but I'm not sure what upgrades there have been in the offense as a whole to make it a better offense. I'll be honest, I'm not sure. I don't really think they've made much of a dent at O-line, so I think that's still an issue. And, you know, across the board, I don't see them being that much better. He could be a bit of a bust. He's currently going off the board at RB31. And there is a situation where he kind of drops off the charts and doesn't have an impact at all. But I would say his ADP is probably about right. And he's someone that you might use as a weekly flex play.
So he had the 5th most yards from scrimmage for a rookie running back, age 24 or over last year. So his age has got to come into that as well. 24, day 5 pick. The Giants can easily move on from if Skattebo turns out to be the player they've drafted him to hopefully be. I feel that, yes, he had a really good season for a player drafted, but I just feel people got a little bit carried away with what he was actually doing. Only 7 games over 10 fantasy points. And from that, obviously, we are talking about PPR scoring as well. Skattebo coming in, we've seen from our kind of game, our highlights we looked at and the conversations we had in the draft process and beyond as well. He is a bit of a wrecking ball running back as well, so he will be challenging for some of that early down work. I just feel there are those question marks, but yeah, going where he's going seems about fair. I just think there are other players I would rather take about that point, and I'd also rather wait for people sat further down the depth chart on him as well in his own team, I think.
It's just too murky in New York at the moment to invest any draft capital in well, arguably any of the running backs, you know, from a redraft perspective. And I certainly wouldn't be investing money in the next running back off the cab rank, and that's Devin Singletary. One of the reasons why Tyrone Tracey emerged was because Devin Singletary was so underwhelming. He is Mr. Consistently underwhelming, and I'm sure he will have another underwhelming 2025. Let's not forget that he was brought in as a replacement for Saquon, and he started last year as the op. I know, yeah. Maybe replacement is the wrong word, but I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of a better word. And so he started last year as RB1, but he never regained the starting role. He missed a couple of games with a groin injury, and I think it says a lot that a 5th-round draft pick, Tyrone Tracey, took over the starting role so easily. And Singletary was relegated to RB2. What role does Singletary have this year? I don't think he has one. If Skattebo is anything like we expect, then surely Singletary's going to struggle for reps, and his ADP reflects that. He's going off the board at RB84, so he's undrafted pretty much. And yeah, he's someone who might emerge. I don't think he will. And if he is, then keep an eye on the waiver wire. But yeah, I've had enough of Singletary. He's just year after year of consistent kind of nothingness.
I was really torn between labeling him as fantasy irrelevant or waiver wire pickup. So the reason I've gone for waiver wire pickup is there is an unlikely route to him potentially having a bit of streaming use on busy bye weeks, maybe. But do I see that actually happening? No, not at all. I think if the Giants saw that happen as well, they wouldn't have drafted another running back. 6.4 points per game and only 4 top 24 finishes. You can't predict when they are. The Giants don't look like they're going to be particularly great this year either. So yeah, I'm not particularly interested in Singletary at all, and I quite hope we're not going to be talking about him as a waiver wire pick up any point in the season as well, because it just feels like that would be a painful state of affairs to be in.
Yeah, I'm genuinely bored of him. He's one of the least interesting running backs that I've had to make notes on, and I kind of start to begrudge it after a while.
So the opposite side of that, a player I'm actually quite excited to see if they can make the step up to the NFL level, and a player that we thought may go a little bit higher than he actually did in the NFL draft, and that is Cam Skattebo coming out of Arizona State.
Yeah, Cam Skattebo, I've seen so much hype around him over the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if you can call him a rookie sleeper now, because there's so much talk about him. But there is potential for him to get you massive value. As we've established, he's certainly got that opportunity to take the RB1 role in New York, as Tracey and Singletary aren't much to write home about. You can see on the screen there, absolutely insane college numbers, mainly due to just how he's so powerful, so explosive. He's certainly not a speed merchant. 4.7 for the 60 is kind of O-line territory. So he's not going to get you any speed demon touchdowns. But yeah, an absolute, as you've described him, wrecking ball. And he's got that potential to be a workhorse for the Giants. So I do see him, even this season, having huge fancy upside. RB34, which is where he's going off the board, could be a steal. He's currently going just behind Tracey. I only see his stock rising as the season approaches. I think by the time we get to game one, he'll be comfortably inside the top 30 ADP. And he's one who I would definitely be looking to stash on my bench, and might well take a running back spot as the season progresses.
One slight question mark is apparently he's been struggling with a bit of a hamstring injury early in training camp. So that's not ideal for a rookie running back, is it, coming in? And Tyrone Tracey could start the season, but I do think by the end of the season, my money would be on Skattebo being the 1A, probably more likely than clear-cut RB1 ahead of Tracey. But yeah, you're right. He's slow, but he's forceful. I'm not sure whether perhaps Steamroller is more accurate than Wrecking Ball. I think Wrecking Ball is perhaps a bit too dynamic because he just seems to stroll through people, but he does it constantly. I'm really excited to see Skattebo. I would take him late round 9, early round 10, where he's going at the minute, just because you're looking at the other players you get in there. I think, as you've alluded to already, his ceiling is higher than other players in that pool, isn't it?
Yeah, if you can get him early round 9, then snap him up, and I think he'll have a good season for you.
Before we move on, do take a moment to subscribe, give us a like and a share as well. And once you finish this video, why not go and check out one of the other 31 deep dive shows as we profile all 32 NFL teams through the offseason to prepare for your redraft leagues. A player that we were excited to see last year, but weren't prepared for what he went out and actually did, especially given the abhorrent QB play he had to endure. Next up, we have Mr. Malik Nabers.
Yes, the only genuine superstar in the Giants offense. Let's not forget, this time last year, slightly overshadowed by Marvin Harrison Jr. coming into the league, but it was Nabers who showcased his talent. An absolutely dazzling rookie season in a very poor offense. And let's be honest, he was the Giants offense at times last year. 109 passes he caught for 1,204 yards and 7 touchdowns. In 15 starts, he missed a couple of games due to concussion and ended up as the wide receiver 6. So an incredibly strong rookie season. Of course, there still remains that huge question mark over this Giants offense, and you've got to take that into account. That being said, regardless of how the offense is, he's got Wilson, who's a better quarterback option that he's had. And Nabers is guaranteed the volume, and he has the talent to continue to thrive. I would say that he is probably being drafted at the ceiling of his value at wide receiver 6. I don't think I can't see him doing any better than that, mainly because of the offense that he's on. But because he's on a poor team, he will also benefit maybe from some garbage time points. So maybe take that into account. But yeah, he's someone who, if you're drafting in round one, I think you're going to get decent value from.
I think the key positive of Wilson and Winston being the QB duo is that Malik Nabers is in for a couple of monster plays throughout the season. Those sorts of plays where you go from perhaps being a little bit behind in your matchup to picking up 10 points just off one play because there's a 40-yard bomb has gone straight to the end zone for him and he's got the touchdown. That is what is exciting about the Giants. That's it. Stops being excited at that point. Maybe Skattebo, yeah, there's a little bit of excitement there, but this is where the highlights are going to come from. 18.2 points per game last year is phenomenal for rookie numbers. I'd say I don't think he's a player that people slept on last year. I think you're exactly right. People were so high in Marvin Harrison. It just overshadowed Nabers a little bit. But he's done exactly what people said he would do. Imagine if he was in an offense with a solid O-line and a great quarterback. The fantasy goal that we could be there for us would just be amazing. Another thing that counts in his favor are the trio behind him. Do you want to spend a little bit of time going deep into how these players will be useful for our redraft leagues this year, Ed?
Not really. Well, I'll talk about them briefly. Jalin Hyatt, 8 catches for 62 yards in the season. That's not a game stat. That's his season stat for his sophomore year. So I don't think they're grounds for a productive 2025. He should get more targets, but no fancy value. Wan'Dale Robinson, fairly productive in such a poor offense last year. He ended up as wide receiver 36 with 93 receptions. Might have some big weeks, but it's hard to see when those weeks would be. So he's someone you'd struggle to start. And Darius Slayton, he'll be a deep threat, as you've alluded to, with Wilson and Winston. And I think he probably has a chance of being wide receiver 3 behind Nabers and Robinson. He's another one who'll benefit from improved quarterback play. And he's another one who will have some big weeks, especially if the Giants are chasing the game. But I mean, if you're pushing me, I'd consider Wan'Dale Robinson as a late bench stash. But apart from that, I don't think there's much value there.
And finally, is a player that we mentioned a couple of times as potentially having some DFS value last year. It just didn't work out. And that is tight end Theo Johnson.
Yeah, I'm quite interested by Theo Johnson. He took a while to get going in his rookie season. And then he had his season cut short by a foot injury. So we never got to see the numbers that we could have done. He ended up way down the list at tight end 37. He was never a prolific pass catcher in college, but he has no competition to speak of at tight end in New York. So he will have a role as tight end 1. Obviously, Nabers is the clear number 1 target, but you can make a case for Johnson being the number 2 target for Russel Wilson or Jameis Winston. And I think there could be some value in his ADP. He's currently going off the board as tight end 32, which to me, there's quite a bit of value potentially there. We just need to see if he comes back strong from what was quite a nasty injury and see how he links up with Wilson. But yeah, I agree. There will be some streaming value in him, and he's one to keep an eye on, especially if you end up drafting a dud tight end and you're looking to replace him later in the year.
Yeah, he's a player I imagine we will talk about from a DFS point of view, fancy game day points this year. He's so athletic. He's going to see the field because who else is there? And obviously he's going to have a role in the offense. And I think we can just trust Russell Wilson to need to check the ball down every now and then. And maybe Johnson could benefit from that as well. Am I drafting him? Absolutely not. I'm going to watch him on the waiver wire. I think that that is useful. And he'll probably be a player that is back and forth on the waiver wire, depending on the matchup, isn't he?
Yeah, a Wilson Johnson stack in DFS would leave you a lot of money elsewhere, wouldn't it? So that could be a tempting one at some point in the season.
I'm looking forward to using that as our bargain basket. Secret stack.
Make a note of that. That's every week when we've not got one.
So, Ed, as we finish up then, New York Giants, Super Bowl contenders? Discuss.
No.
There we go.
they, as I alluded to earlier, they're going to struggle to match the wins of last season. I think there's not been. They've got a better quarterback. They should have a better season, but the difficulty for them is they're in a really tough division. They've got to play the Eagles twice. They've got to play the Commanders twice. And I don't see them getting more than 5 wins. Certainly not a playoff team.
So, as we've said already, then please do give us a subscribe, a like, and a share. Go and check out one of our other 31 shows profiling each NFL team as we get you ready for your redraft draft this off-season. But as we come very near to the end of our deep dive series, I think all we have left to say is ta-ta from me, farewell from you, and Malcolm, take us home.
You have been listening to Pestell and Ed of TH Fantasy Football. For more content, follow TH_fantasy_NFL on Instagram and Twitter.